Hi everybody and welcome to session 2 of Learn to Knit with Hayley. So today we're going to be looking at cast on, and I'm going to show two different methods of casting on, a more traditional method and the long tail method, which is used very commonly today. You should know, to proceed with this video, already how to select the right yarn and needles and for them to be compatible before we continue. If you do need any help or support on this, please check out session 1 from the series, which can be found on the YouTube channel under playlists for Learn to Knit with Hayley. And without further ado, we're going to get on to knit. So I've chosen my yarn and my needles, which are a DK, and 4mm needles, which are compatible together. And what we're going to do to start off with is create a slip stitch. If you hold the end of your yarn and pull it away with the other hand, and then take the loop that comes back down the other side, then you want to twist it. Okay, and then it doesn't matter which way you twist. You can twist it towards you or you can twist it away from you. Once you have that loop, pop your fingers in and grab the tail that you are holding with your thumb, and without letting go, pull that back up through that loop. There are lots of different ways to do a slip stitch. That's generally the way I like to do that. And the one thing that you want to remember is have a look at your pattern all the way through first before you do your cast on, because that will give you an indication of whether the tail at the end of your cast on is used at a later point to knit up any sides or ends. It's really handy if you can leave that attached and save yourself enough for sewing in if needed, because the least amount of joins and cuts we make, the better the end piece will generally be and more stable. So I'm going to do that once more. So you take the end of your yarn, take the other piece of your yarn and twist it. And then I'm going to grab the tail I'm holding with my thumb and pull it up into a loop. We're then going to pop that onto one of our needles. So I've got my yarn around my needle and I'm holding that one in my left hand. Now I'm going to put the yarn that comes from the ball to the back, and I'm going to hold it with my hand. I'm then going to take my right hand needle and I'm going to pop it up through that little hole we've created there with our slip stitch. And I'll do that once more. So we're going to take the needle underneath that's in our right hand and pop it up through the hole that we've created with our slip stitch. And I'm angling that needle so that it's slightly backwards. And the reason for that is because when you go to wrap your yarn around, it will feel much more comfortable. So you want to try and separate your needles. If you have your needles like this, it will be really difficult for you to try to get your yarn wrapped around without catching it on anything else. So if you do your needles at cross purposes like this, it's far easier. And what we're going to do is just hold our yarn in our right hand and we're going to wrap it round the needle at the back, which is our right hand needle, and onto there. Now I'm going to support this stitch here whilst I take the left needle up the right, and we're going to pop that stitch over the top. I'm not going to take my left needle out at the moment. I'm just going to bring it alongside, and then we're going to go up into the stitch on the right hand needle, just there. And we are ready for our second stitch. So we're just going to wrap that around. We're going to go over the top, bring them so that they're side by side, and then we're going to go up and under the one on the right hand needle. You may be able to see now that my stitches on the left hand side are multiplying. I'm just going to continue with this until I've got 16 stitches, and then we'll be ready to start our project. Okay, so for the long tail cast on, we're going to do something very similar to what we did for the traditional method. However, the length of our tail matters for this, because the working yarn comes from the end, the loose end, rather than just the ball over here. So we need to know how much of a tail we need for our project. Now there is a way to do this by measuring it. You will become more confident with knowing by looking how much thread you need. and it generally is how many wraps around the needle, so it's 1 wrap per stitch. So if we're going to do a cast on of 16 and we need a little bit extra on the end for a working tail, I'm going to hold my yarn on my needle and I'm going to wrap it round 16 times. Slide that down and then add on a little bit extra for the tail. So I'm going to pull that off, and that is the length of thread that I've got to create my 16 stitches. So I'm going to take that, and at that point there I'm going to create our slip stitch. So the same as before, hold both sides of the yarn, twist it round, grab that tail and pop it up through, and then pull that back as far as you can. But this differs from the traditional method of casting on because this is going to now go on to our right hand needle, not our left. And we're going to make sure that the small tail, the not working yarn end, is towards the front. So if you open out your slip stitch like this bit needs to be at the front, the small tail, and I'm going to pop it onto my needle and I'm going to pull it. And then we're going to hold both pieces of these yarns in our fingers like so. So it goes around my index finger, around my thumb, and I'm holding it back here underneath to keep it tight. And it can take a little bit of getting used to. So once you've got your yarn held like that, you need to be fairly close to the end of the needle, otherwise it'll make it a really long way to try to get over the top. Secure this stitch here with your finger to stop it sliding too much. And we're going to take this over like that, needle in, straighten it up, take the back thread over the top and take the front thread back over the top of it. So it's turn your hand away, needle in, take the back thread over, take the front thread over. And we're going to go again. So holding the right hand needle, we're going to turn our hand so we can see our yarn. We're going to go in the front, around the needle with the back thread, over the needle with the front, and we're going to pull it so that it's the same tension as the others. So in, over, over, in, over, over, in, over, over. So if you want to continue to do that until you've got 16 stitches, and then you are done. So thank you very much for watching today, and that is you essentially started knitting. Congratulations. So I would have a practice at those in terms of how to cast on. Choose the method that you feel is going to work for you best. A lot of patterns won't specify, some will. And we're going to move on to knitting a short piece of work on the next session. And then the session after that will be all about casting off and methods of how to do that. Thank you very much for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next session.